Hello again. Yeah. My name is Roxanne. I'm the MC for this lunch symposium. And this lunch symposium today is entitled Doctors' Dialogues, Leadership Lessons from the End of Life. We would like to start with a short video for everyone, abstracted from the Doctors' Dialogues video series commissioned by the Lien Foundation. Please enjoy.
Young doctor, the patient comes in quite sick in the middle of the night. It's a 1-minute conversation to tell the family members I will send him to intensive care, I will do everything possible for him and then go back to bed, versus a 30-45-minute conversation sitting down with them, exploring what's important now, what has the patient gone through, what matters to him. If he were in this state, would he really want to go on, carry on fighting? What about pain and suffering? Have you had these conversations with your dying relative as to what his wishes will be? For a tired, sleep-deprived junior doctor, what would you choose?
With the technology these days, there are so many things that we can do to just continue so-called life. But are we just prolonging suffering?
You go to medical school to be a doctor to save people's life. They don't want to talk about death.
If we don't see death as a failure, we see that giving comfort is a success, then that changes the whole mindset.
We always try our best, but we know when to let go and when to accept. I think what doctors can help is to normalize the physical process of dying. If doctors don't take the leadership role in guiding the conversation, then who would?
Training and technical perfection is still absolutely necessary. Medical school is very good in delivering on technical professional know-how. I think that they are also beginning to realize very much the hardware, not just the headware or the hardware. I don't think those things are taught in a classroom. Thou shall do A, B, C, D, E. You pass all of this MCQ, you will have emotional quotient equal to 100%. But they are experiential, they are via role modeling, via self-reflection and discovery applied to a human being. Do we listen with our heart?
And that is a very short snippet, abstracted from Doctors' Dialogues video series. If you'd like to watch more, this series is now available on the web at www.dialogues.org. Each video averages about 20 minutes, and this series is a cross-country collaboration between Singapore and Australia, featuring 12 senior healthcare leaders from Singapore and 8 from Australia. Today, we are honored to have 3 of these eminent doctors featured in the series with us to share their reflections and insights on death and dying. They are Professor Christopher Cheng Wai Sam, Senior Consultant Urologist at Sengkang General Hospital and Singapore General Hospital. Professor Ng Wai Ho, Deputy Group CEO, Strategy and Planning of SingHealth and CEO of Changi General Hospital. And last but not least, Dr. Tan Ya Swam, President of the Singapore Medical Association and the breast surgeon in private practice. Moderating the session today, we have none other than Mr. Robert Chew, Chairman of Singapore Hospice Council. And so without further ado, let's give them a warm welcome to invite our guests on stage. Mr. Chew, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry to interrupt your lunch. Please feel free to continue eating while we have our conversation here. Hopefully, while you're eating, you can listen in, because I think there are much to learn. I myself have watched many of the videos that have been posted on YouTube. If you can't remember the web address, you just go to the Lien Foundation YouTube channel, right? Just go on YouTube, type Lien Foundation, and then you see the whole series of videos there. So they, in fact, recently uploaded a few more, including doctors from Australia, right? I think one of the reasons Lien Foundation does this, well, first of all, Lien Foundation always does things in a very innovative way, you know. I've learned about Lien Foundation when I was serving on the Social Innovation Center, and when the annual report came in like what do you call those things, like tombstone, it's like nobody had to carry this thing around, you know. But it's one of the few annual reports that I keep for life, you know. A lot of people annual report, you take home, you throw in a rubbish bin. This one is a collector item, you know. And actually it's very hard to get. It's a limited edition. You know. But it goes to show this is how they address problem, right? They always address problem from a very different perspective, you know. So in fact, we talk about death and dying and good dying. Actually, the people in Lien have been talking about this for more than 20 years, 10 years, you know. And they used to put coffin over the city, you know. I don't know if you recall that. Yeah, so this is, yeah, so they are pretty radical, you know. They call themselves radical philanthropy, yeah. Sorry to digress, but I thought I need to give you this background so you understand that doing this video series is not ordinary, right? First, they have chosen doctors who are not your palliative doctors, although one of them did go and do palliative medicine in Dover Park Hospice, but generally they don't come from that background. However, they are prominent physicians in their own field, you know? Top neurologists or top urologists, you know, CEO of clusters and hospitals, and top you know, surgeon in a private practice. You know. So I think one reason why is to let them share their experience in areas of death and dying and how they address it. And then you guys can see, because I come to understand that the medical profession is like a priesthood, where people look up, you know. You talk to Professor Cheng and he talk about so-and-so was his teacher, like the Cynthia Goh husband, Hatsu, was his teacher. Right? I actually forgotten who was my teacher, you know, when I did computer science. So like, who, you know, whoever made that kind of impact, right? Yeah. Whereas I think medicine is different. So if you listen to these three top clinicians, it will probably have a greater impact than just to have some hospice council people talking to you. Although we have very strong physicians too, right? Like the lady who presented this morning, Angel, right? So you know, studies have shown that people still find it hard to talk about death. Right? And we don't want to restrict the discussion of death just to people who do palliative medicine. In fact, if you talk to any of these three individuals, they say they encounter death very often, you know. But the first time they encounter death always has an impact on them. And so the first question actually relates to, can each of you please share something about a death that has deeply affected you, right? And how that has influenced your perspective or your approach in your professional practice. So I'll just go in this order, right? So starting with Chris, then Waiho and Yasuan, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for the organizing committee for asking me to participate in this wonderful symposium. I learned a lot watching the videos. Thank you, Lien Foundation. All the episodes published so far, and learned a lot this morning from Angel, from everybody. And I thought I'd just share two quick stories about my experience that touched me most about death. The first, as Robert mentioned, Hakko was my lecturer, and I was in his home when their children were young with Cynthia. And my last conversation with Cynthia was when I found a missed call on my phone from Cynthia. So I phoned, and Hakko, Professor Goh Ak-Su, said, Cynthia is driving. Say hi to her. So I said, hi, Cynthia, but let me tell you the story. This was the first time that I heard about Cynthia's illness, and he was making some inquiry about some medical detail. Little did I know that that was last time I had a conversation with Cynthia. But as news trickled in, as some of you heard this morning, Cynthia was really a walking angel in that regard, that she not only walked the talk, she walked what she teaches. And in her dying months, she was full of energy, whatever she can muster, mentoring all the trainees in the art, completing all the work that she could complete, projects. And she was an exemplary example of a good death. Everything is all close with friendship, love all around. What an angel. The second short story was a very prominent individual in our leadership. I looked after him in the last days. And again, his words stayed with me. He said, "Chris, I have no uncompleted tasks. I have strong faith. Just keep me from pain. I'll be all right. But my daughter has just come back after a long time in overseas, and she wanted me to have a second round of chemotherapy. I half suspect the chemotherapy is not going to work, but for closure for her, the daughter, I will undergo the second chemotherapy. Again, no uncompleted tasks, including closure with the daughter. So the family is still good friends, and those two stories stay with me for a very long time. Thank you."
Yes, Waiho.
Yeah, so I initially thought of sharing just one story from my clinical practice, but since Robert spoke about, coffins being placed around the city, I thought I'll share, my very first exposure to death in my life was my dad's godfather, and I was 6 at that point in time. It was the first time I heard of this concept called death. And I was really curious because to me the coffin was like a treasure chest. I used to like to, at that age you would read about Treasure Island, and there was always these pirates that would bury the treasure on a remote island and mark it with an X. And I thought that burying him would be like burying a treasure, and I was so fascinated, and I really wanted to attend the funeral. So I think my first kind of concept about death was, in a way, an interesting one and not a terrifying one, although subsequently the thought that there would come a day that you would cease to exist was quite terrifying to me at a young age. Then moving on to the clinical arena, one of the earliest deaths that I had to certify as a young house officer was a very young lady, and she had come into the hospital in the terminal stages of cancer, and it was quite clear that she was in her last legs on her earthly journey. She had photographs of herself, a much younger version of herself, pre-sickness, very fit, healthy, involved in water sports like water skiing and all that. And I think she was really a top athlete in her heydays. And so one afternoon I was called to attend to her. She was in excruciating pain, and I think there is this look in her eyes that you knew that she knew that she was in the last few minutes of her life. Her husband was next to her, sitting close by, and I instinctively asked him to kind of leave so that I could screen her and attend to her, essentially to certify the time of her death. And not unsurprisingly, within a matter of minutes, she really passed on with some level of discomfort. And looking back, I think after that event, I reflected on what had actually traversed and what had actually happened, and I was telling myself that why was it so important? Why was it so critical for me to ask the husband to leave when all that the husband was to spend the last few moments, in embrace of his wife. What was so important that a mere certification of death, why was it so important to me that I had to, do that pretty much, not very useful task? And I think that really caused me to reflect, what is it that truly matters at the end of our life? Should we go about, following the strict protocol, the usual guidelines, or should we constantly think about deviating from that and actually thinking about what truly matters to our patients and what matters to them in the last few moments, last few days, last few weeks of their earthly life?
Thank you, Wai Ho. I think it's already on.
Okay. Testing? Yeah. So thanks for having me. I'm a breast surgeon in private practice, and I think for surgeons, a lot of times when we see patients, they are at, especially for breast, they're at the early stage of cancer. But a lot of them jump straight ahead to talking about, worrying about what happens when they die. And I'm trying to teach them that having a cancer diagnosis honestly shouldn't be that scary. There is time for treatment, there's time to think through, and there's time to plan. I now share 2 stories of very sudden deaths that set me down this path. So I think it's unusual for surgeons to be so interested in palliative care. But both, I think I was a MO, I was a registrar. As an MO, I was in the neurosurgery department. And one night, some guy came in with an aneurysm, so internal bleeding in the brain. GCS, I think 5 or 6 or something. I made the call to the registrar and give him the updates. 60 plus years old, end stage renal failure. Came in with fixed and dilated pupils, etc. Registrar over the phone. Okay, sent to ward, maximum ward care. So with that, even at that junior level, this person will die in a matter of hours or 1 or 2 days. And it was my job to call the next of kin to tell them this decision. So when I told the wife, I think over the phone she was in major denial. She was like, we just retired, we were going to go on a world trip. And I think that just affected me, that you have to break this kind of news like that. Second incident was a similar, youngish, middle-aged man, 40 plus, local, but works in construction, had a fall from height, came in through the A&E. He was talking to me, and blah, 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 you assess, go for scans, certain surgery, go to surgery. During the surgery, we thought we fixed the problem, but suddenly he crashed. The trauma senior consultant was there and realized, opened up the chest, he had a very unusual tear in one of the tiny valves of the heart. Not salvageable. I was holding the heart and trying to pump it and died there. And after that, sign up, coroner's case. Again, whose job is it to talk to a family? The registrar. So I had to, again, compose myself, call the family, and there was no training for this. And over the phone, I made a decision. Don't break the news over the phone. So I called the wife. The wife's first response was, like, who are you? Why are you calling us? Why are you this woman calling me? Where's my husband? I said, I'm calling from a blah, blah, blah hospital. He was in an accident. Please come to the hospital, come to level 3 ICU as soon as you can. This is serious, please bring the family. So after composing yourself, walk out to the ICU, 20, 30 minutes later, most of the family was there. Confirm the family members. Again, I made a decision, can I talk to the male members of family? For some reason, talk to the brothers first. So brought them to one side and told them, actually, so-and-so passed away during the surgery. I'm sorry. To my surprise, the men started wailing. So once they start wailing, the entire room, all the women all started wailing. And then I also started crying. So, so can you imagine? At first, the wife was damn angry. 那个死鬼这样子, that idiot so late to come home. Why this strange woman call us, right? And then the next thing you know is actually he died. At the point that I called, he was already gone. So suddenly that these young incidents left me very deeply affected that we never take life for granted. Sudden trauma, sudden aneurysm, your life could end at any point. In contrast, breaking a diagnosis of cancer, there is time to get treatment, to plan ahead, and that got me interested in palliative care. That conversation can start and be led by a clinician. So that's my introduction to why I am so advocating for this.
Thank you very much, the three top surgeons. In fact, your sharing highlighted this perspective about death and dying that Lane Foundation had always trying to examine, which is doctors learn in medical school a lot about the technical aspects of how the body works, what medication works for different conditions, how technology can be used, and so forth. But you don't learn explicitly how you deal with the situation where someone dies and then you do an admin task and you end up seem to ignore the feelings of the or have to make phone calls to the deceased family. So it highlights that actually. So you learning on the job. I wonder if there's any learning that you think could be imparted to the participants here, or in fact should be made known generally to the medical practice, or profession, so that hopefully we can be more sensitive in a situation where someone died. I remember once in an organization that I hang out with, as soon as the patient died, this home care, one of our staff called a family member, almost similar. At least yours is just announced death. Ours call and say, when can we recover the oxygen machine or something, And the family obviously freak out, You're not even asking me, about the person who just passed away, whom you're supposed to treat. Within the hours, you're calling me to come and collect a piece of equipment, I thought that was quite insensitive. It's just like, but we don't learn this sometimes. Although you think you should know, right? Yeah. So I wonder if you have any learnings or approaches or perspective about how any of these clinicians or even non-clinicians, but who have to deal with death, how would they address it? How would they, take a moment to? Yes, Chris, please.
Maybe I'll start first,
Yes,
Robert. Thanks for asking that very, very important question. So my contribution or my attempt in making a contribution would be to say that I think one way or the other, we wish to walk in our patients' shoes. Try to imagine what they're going through and imagine what I would like to hear, connecting at the heart level. So being a cancer patient myself, I had my own anxious moments, going through surgery, going through radiation. So technically, pathologically, I have a high-risk disease, 50-30% chance of survival. Technically, on the database, I am a salvage patient. And I'll discover something through that experience that much as we wish to, we can never truly walk in our patient's shoes. Same diagnosis, same situation, applied to different life experience, different social contexts, different family backgrounds, may have quite different reactions. So it humbles me a lot to understand that all the medical school training of technical scientific basis, all the attempt to try and understand the human being, leaves me actually with a void. But the void is very interesting. It gives me the openness to accept. You're crying, yes, you are very emotional. I can cry with you. You are frightened, so am I. And suddenly the eyes open and we connect at the heart level. they also understand that much as I complain, I know that you don't have all the solutions. But it's okay. We are human beings. So my sharing is to say that, look, yes, the technical part, following the policies, following the instructions, doing the administrative paperwork are important. But connecting with the human being is our job, is our calling, is actually the fountainhead of compassion. To show compassion, love to a fellow human being, I think is the most important act that we can contribute to this experience. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I think to follow on with what Chris said, right, I believe that one of the most undervalued qualities, and certainly one of the values that we now see that is truly important and crucial to all of us in our work lives, personal lives, as well as professional lives, is this quality of empathy. I think throughout COVID, actually, we realized that particularly those of us that have led organizations and worked in organizations, that element of empathy, being able to empathize with our people, with our colleagues, with our patients, was highlighted as a quality that was so important. And because empathy, as Chris puts it, it helps us to connect with people, helps us to show the human side of us. I would say that all doctors, I think doctors frequently forget that we are humans first and doctors second, and that healthcare professionals are humans. We are all humans, and it is important to view ourselves as humans, and also to view our patients and the people that we care for as humans, and to make that human connections. And it will naturally flow from that. And I think beyond that, then we tend to, particularly here in Singapore, to be sometimes a little bit too technocratic. And sometimes in Singapore, we value efficiency above all other things. And I think it's time to relook that, and it's time to slow down. It's time to, place human connectedness above efficiency, and not to, and just to take the time to slow down, to make that human connection, to empathize with people. Medical school really trains us to be very efficient and gives us all that knowledge. And I'm glad that things are changing, that now communication, empathy, breaking bad news, and are all taught in medical school. And beyond that, I think it's important for us to have good role models, but with the senior doctors, and also the ability for us to always be self-aware, to self-reflect. We will never get things right. We will always make mistakes. But if we have a bad conversation, we've done things we haven't been able to empathize so well, reflect on that and improve on that. I think over time we will become better doctors and better physicians, and I think ultimately better human beings.
Thank you. Swan, you want?
Absolutely. I think similar observations as to my colleagues. The technical skill of doing a surgery, after a while, every doctor more or less the same. It's that connection that's a bit more elusive. And now in private practice, we have a luxury of time to connect more with every one of our patients. And the interesting thing is that you find that patients will also gravitate to the doctor they click the best with. I share that I think my first 1 or 2 private patient who rejected me, ran away to see a different doctor. I felt a bit offended or scared. Am I not good enough for you? And after reflecting and talking to seniors, they say, no, it's really how the patient perceives you. So I'm in my 40s. To someone who's my peer, they might appreciate that, oh, you are in the prime of your career. I trust you. To someone who's younger than me, 25 years old and diagnosed with cancer, I'm like their older sister. I trust you, right? I trust you to look after me. But if my patient is 65, 70 years old, they look at me and, my daughter is older than you. And then they'll be like, I don't think you're a very good doctor. I don't think you're senior enough. And they will go away. But conversely, people say the men are anti-saso, right? Anti-killer. I hope that some of my auntie patients also look at me as if I'm their daughter. And they actually relate to that. So when we counsel patients and we talk to them, imagine how they see us. We are not just the healthcare providers. We are almost like a friend. We're almost like a part of the family member as we walk the journey of the chronic care with them. So portraying that respectful relationship helps them to accept our recommendations better. So whatever job you're in, whatever role you play, think of what the patients would like to hear in a way. And we present that same information, but with that correct tone. Is it from a younger generation to a senior? Is it peer to peer? Or is it from a senior to a junior? That little generational touch affects their receptivity a lot.
I'm very impressed with my colleague, Dr. Ng, saying that we have to give space for compassion. Because in a very highly efficient healthcare system, championing on efficiency, faster, better, cheaper, it's actually hard to create that space sometimes. You have so many unfinished tasks. Just read yesterday's statistics. The suicide rate in Singapore has just jumped up by, last year, 23+%. And it's in that young working adult age group between 20 to 40. There is a real burnout out there, not just in terms of psychological burnout, compassion burnout. And to make this thing work, can I make a plea to the healthcare leadership, follow Prof. Ng Wai Ho's example? We actually have to give space for compassion. Compassion medicine is cheaper medicine, more efficient medicine, less medical legal problems, and much happier working staff. If you give them opportunity to express their human nature, you can only be as good a doctor, a nurse, healthcare administrator as you are a human being, as what Prof. Ng said. So this is an opportunity, and I make this plea to the healthcare leadership out there. Give your staff a chance to be a good human being.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. And here there is a question from the audience relating to compassion. And this has got one of the top votes, right? And the question is, this idea, now that you talk about compassion, would there reach a stage where there's compassion fatigue, And maybe compassion fatigue, is that real or is it overrated? Or can we talk more about it? Any tips as to how to address this? In hospices, sometimes we do this thing called debrief, partly to address sometimes some of the emotion that the staff may have with our patient. So, anyone, please?
Ayo. Okay. Again, as a breast surgeon, I break news a lot of the times, and in the private sector, a lot actually very early stage cancers. I have to admit, I get very tired if I have to talk to 3 new cancer patients in a day. Everyone goes through that same gamut of emotions, a bit of anger, a bit of denial. Are you very sure? Maybe the results are wrong. Maybe you sampled the wrong thing. Maybe you got the wrong lab. And then after that, straight away jump to chemotherapy. It's the same question. But with every patient, I owe them that chance to treat it like it's the first time I'm hearing the question. Oh, yes. And by third patient, end of the day, I'm like, I'm very tired and I don't want to talk to another patient ever again in my life. And then when I get back home, I'm moody and angry. I scold my children. So I think all healthcare providers here feel that, isn't it? The anger, the resentment, waiting time is 2 hours. How many times I have to tell you it's 2 hours? But you cannot say that, right? So suppress it in. End of the day, you are broken. You're very fed up. You wish that you are not doing this. The important thing is self-care. And self-care not in terms of, arranging a hairstyling or buying one new trinket. It's really to make time for yourself, to be yourself, to acknowledge the anger and angst. It is nothing shameful to admit that, I'm fed up, I've had it. But there is a higher calling, which I assume everyone here believes in because we're sacrificing the weekend for this, isn't it? And to commit, take a break so they can walk the longer journey. So learn to practice self-care every day. Don't use a 14-day leave just for one big major trip. Every day, make sure you do something nice for yourself. Even something simple like using atta soap when you shower so that it smells nice. The women here all get it. Or buying one time branded perfume, spray so that you feel good, you sound good, right? What else? Taking that 5-10 minute or coffee
What
break.
do men do? What so atas?
Yeah, I'll leave the men to discuss later whether you buy yourself a new watch or something, but the woman's needs are very simple, right? All we need to do is to call a friend, chit chat, from your play. After that, okay, love you, okay, catch up again, bye-bye. So, yeah, to all my healthcare workers out there, remember, take care of yourself, right? Don't neglect yourself, okay?
Oh, Waiho, please come and rescue us.
Yeah, I would submit that probably men's needs are simpler. Yeah. I think Chris just goes cycling. Yeah. I just put on my shoes and I go for a run. So a $70 pair of shoes lasts you for 18 months.
I think we want one atas soap.
Yes, yeah, but I agree with Yaswam. I think it's compassion fatigue is real. I think the first thing is to acknowledge that it's real, and we need to have the humility to know that we are not superheroes. Sometimes we always say, right, there's this saying around Nurses Day, we always say that nurses are superheroes in disguise. We mean it in one way, but we can't mean it in the other way, because I think at the end of the day, we are not superheroes. We are not superhuman. We are human after all. And being human also means to accept that we are fallible, we have our weaknesses, and that we are susceptible to burnout, particularly compassion burnout. So the first thing is that compassion burnout is real. Compassion burnout can happen to all of us. And as what Yaswam says, it's important to then adopt a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach, to proactively always give ourselves time and space, give ourselves the permission to sometimes say no to certain tasks, to say no if we feel tired, and to have daily routines for us to recharge. And that varies from person to person. And I would say that both men and women need it. Men and women may need it in different ways. Yeah. And we use different skincare products. But I think some men do enjoy going for massages and spas as well. So I think whatever it is, choose the thing that makes you feel good. Yeah.
Thank you, Waiho. In fact, actually, Chris already gave advice to all the senior management. Make space and time for your staff so that they can go and buy atas soap or go for a jog and run, and spa. But Chris, you do it.
Yeah, I think I'll just add a few. I completely agree with my colleagues that you have to make space for self-care, self-awareness that you are experiencing burnout, tiredness, and moody moods. The little extra that maybe I like to add is that since not all the healthcare leaders are here that heard this, we have to look after each other. We are social animals. We need to look into your colleagues' eyes. Are you looking down? You're not responding back to me. We have each other's back. Nobody can change the cause of healthcare, exhaustion, because really this is a super aging society and there's a very high expectation. But I actually think that compassion fatigue sometimes is self-imposed. Sometimes I like what Isan is talking about, going home tired. That tiredness is a very satisfying tiredness. I've done a good day's worth of work. I make my patients, comfortable. When they walk out of the clinic, they say, "Doc, you make my day, despite the bad news." I mean, this is not about salary or rewards. We are so fortunate to have the opportunity as frontline workers to touch somebody's souls if we open ourselves to them. And it is better than a good meal and a good bar of soup, as far as I'm concerned. But the other part that I want to add is that it's not just about the frontline workers. Your backroom support staff, struggling with the IT system, struggling with finance, struggling with all the documents that they have to submit to, I'm sorry, MOH here.
They should be here and listen to you.
Here, right? Yeah, they are the ones who need to make space for us. Anyway, we are in it together. You know, this conference is about collaboration, looking after each other's back. You know, recognizing that none of us are perfect and we can't do it alone. We all have our shadows, but it's okay. We love you all the same. This is an opportunity to be a good human being to each other.
Thank you. I told you you get good advice here, right? And you can eat and listen to such good advice. Here's another question that got quite a high rating, and it's obviously related to the work we do. Can the speaker share any experience with death anxiety? I'm not exactly sure what that would mean, but how you think policymaker could tackle death anxiety in our society? I assume people fearful of death. Is death anxiety, or maybe like your first encounter with the coffin.
Okay, I venture
Yes,
right?
please.
If anyone learner in the audience can correct me, it'd be great. Death anxiety, is it that sensation of panic when I think about my own death? Yeah, I think when younger, I never gave it a thought. It's after becoming a mother, then suddenly, yeah, on and off, suddenly in the middle of the night, or rather just before sleeping, I had this little fear. What if I suddenly die? What happened to my children? What lies after this? Will my soul be floating around? Will I become a ghost? Will I really go to heaven like what my church teaches? Or will I be, unsettled business and wander the earth as a lonely ghost, as a hungry ghost? A lot of fear. Or maybe I was bad and I'll be sent down to hell. So there's really a lot of fear and worry and panic. And I think during the worst of COVID, animations will set me off. I don't know whether you ever saw this cartoon. It's a comic. It shows a mother dinosaur talking to a baby dinosaur. In the background, there's a comet. So the mother dinosaur told the baby, baby, close your eyes and count to 10. I don't know whether you understand the implications. It means that the asteroid is striking the earth and the extinction of dinosaurs is coming. And the mother knew it. The mother is just trying to protect the child from the end. So I think after becoming a mother, that horrifies me. What if global warming and the earth will die? What if it happens in my generation? What if I cannot protect my children from, sudden death? Or the world is dying. Will I be one of those cultish people who kill them to put out suffering and then I kill myself? So yeah, suddenly there's this weird, huge ball of anxiety. I think at such a moment, for myself, that's when my faith comes in, to really trust that my God is looking after me and that all will be well in His hands. So now in the private sector, again, I know SMC guideline, we shouldn't be talking about faith and religion to patients, but once in a while I do venture and ask, what do you believe in for the afterlife? And ask them to start thinking about it. Fellow believers, fellow Christians, easier to share. People with a different religion but follow similar principles, I'll ask them to talk to their own religious leaders, to have that confidence in acceptance and not be so fearful about future deaths. So I'm not sure whether that's what the member of the audience is asking for, but that's my interpretation of death anxiety.
Thank you. It is about the patient anxiety. I think you address it right. I like that story of the mother dinosaur. Right? Yeah. Anybody like to share about this topic? Yes?
I just started counting to 10. 9, 8. I think to me the death anxiety is very real, especially for those with a lot of acquisition. We just send out acquisition. Those people who have just sent off a huge order for online shopping. What am I going to do if death suddenly strikes? Very fearful, panic. One blood test that's slightly abnormal. Am I dying? Cannot let go. So to me, it's about perspective and acceptance. And certainly spirituality and faith and philosophy goes a long way. Asking that question, can you accept? So I think the physician's role to me for, let's say, PAL care, I think this whole afternoon there are sessions on spirituality. It's not necessarily faith-based spirituality, but some kind of guidance, how one crosses the river into acceptance.
Thank you so much. Very good.
Yes. So I would say that if death anxiety will cover two main areas. I think one, as alluded to by the two other speakers, is actually the spiritual realm. And by spiritual, I would say it transcends religion, because even people without a faith system or a faith belief, I think we all have some means. Being human, I think we are also spiritual beings, and we do believe in something, in a faith system of whatever sort, regardless of our race, of our upbringing, of our culture. So I believe that in some ways the anxiety comes from the spiritual end, and we think about what happens to us as what will we be after we pass on, and that I think having a spiritual belief will give us a sense of closure and less anxiety as we approach the end of our days. The other whole bucket of anxiety would actually be the physical world that we leave behind, because many of us have families and have obligations, and that would then vary depending on the state that we are in, whether we have young children, whether our children are grown up, elderly parents, and the people we leave behind. I think the other aspect does also require preparation, things like having insurance policies, putting in our legal matters, and maybe even getting guardians and custody of the people that we leave behind. And I think all these things also needs to be sorted out. They are very practical and pragmatic issues, but if not addressed, will also lead to a lot of anxiety as the person thinks about approaching his end day. So I think we do need to look into both areas, the spiritual aspects as well as the physical and more pragmatic aspects, so that we can allay some of the anxiety as our patients approach the end of their days. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Raiho. Well, I learned a lot from these three top clinicians in town, from atas soup to spirituality, from death, to handling emotion, from being in the shoe of the patient, and then being too much in the shoe that you have to now deal with the compassion fatigue. Maybe just to close, can each one of you just give like one word or one sentence of advice, to actually in this room, most people are way younger than I, so I'm sure they have a career to map forward, what would you tell them that, that will remain in and guide them as they move ahead, this path of serving in this palliative sector? So we just start from the lady, and Chris will help us close this. Thank you.
Well, so I know Prof has known me since I was a MO, 25 years ago, maybe even. So he knows my pattern lah. You realize my answers and professor answers very different, right? Normal doctor talk different from professor. So
You are professor, you promoted.
got promoted by Vihaya. So I'm not sure whether you're aware, I was the SMA president for 3 years, and then I am finishing my final term, a final month as a nominated MP. And it's some kind of opportunity I never looked for. It's opportunity came, I just took it. And I may not be the best person for a job, but still, when there's an opportunity, you just try. And I think my view is always that, we only have one life. Live bravely, live without regrets, and just dare to do something. So those of you who are single, you've been thinking of asking that person out, don't be shy, do it. If you're thinking of trying a different job, not sure what if the pay no good, this and that, don't be scared. Just apply and try. What's the worst that can happen? You don't get it. Oh, why? Oh, you got someone you want to talk. table 12 got someone very excited when I said you must ask the person out. Okay. So ultimately, I think whatever age, whatever status we're on, don't wait until the next time. There may not be a next time. If I'm going to wait until retirement to do this, to do that, what if I don't get to that age? So yeah, have certain plans in mind, certain bucket list. We can start taking them off at any point that we want. So live well for now before we have to think about leaving.
Yeah, so moving on to this living your life with no regret, I would say that living well or dying well really begins with living well, living a full life with no regrets. I think that will prepare us to live and to die well. And I think a piece of advice maybe in terms of for us here as healthcare workers, as I mentioned earlier on, I think that it's really important for all of us to have empathy for our patients, but also I think empathy for ourselves so that we can also, protect ourselves, against burnout, against compassion fatigue, and empathy for each other because we are all in this as one healthcare family. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still counting to 10, so I have no answer. But I just leave you with a thought that exactly like what Yi Chuan has said. Actually, freedom, liberty, eternal life, love, all the wishes are here and now. When I counted to 10, I don't know what will happen to the dinosaur or me. But here and now is all we have. So reach out to your neighbor, shake the hand, and say, we are all in it together. I love you.
Please join me to thank the three panelists again. Thank you so much.